What's happening? How's it going? So I'm making this video today. So I think there are, and this is based on feedback, not only in person, but from Instagram and stuff, that a lot of people don't really understand why I made the kayak that I made and really how I made it. And I've made videos on my channel kind of like this before, but I'm gonna make this one, it should be a little more informative, I would think. So I'll take you back to the fall of 2017. I went to Beast Feast with my dad, and they had a bunch of kayaks there. And I've never actually seen kayaks like this before, the big bass fishing kayaks. And, and I thought they were awesome. Well, at the time I wanted a boat, and I just didn't want to make the payments on a boat at the time. And it really wasn't the best time to have that extra payment. So I started looking at kayaks, and I shopped around, and I got on the internet and I talked to people, and I found Ozark Mountain Trading Company here in Conway. And I went up there, looked around a time or two, and found the Jackson Big Rig, the one you see now that I have, and bought it. And took it to the lake. I brought it home, I put it in the living room. And it was huge. It was heavy. It was awesome. I loved it. It was great. And so we took it out to the lake here, and I would paddle across that lake, which is about 3/4 of a mile, and it hurt my shoulder too bad to do that. So basically, I had an incident in 2017 in August, where basically something very heavy landed on my shoulder. Ever since then, I've been having issues like cat. Zoom in here. I've had issues with tendonitis after that, and now I've got big issues with bursitis. So you can see, you know, rowing like this is going to cause a big problem with that. So came the ideas of putting a trolling motor on the back. I'd seen that done. I'd seen where people take the top off, or the control head or whatever it's called, and basically put the controls at the seat and everything, and it's awesome. Some guys have a little key fob kind of thing, and I was like, maybe I can do something like that. So I tried it, wasn't fast enough. I was like, hey, this is great. I got a 30-pound thrust trolling motor, moving along pretty good. I thought my battery's gonna die, I don't like that. So I started to think, man, wouldn't it be cool if I put a gas motor on there? Something cheap, something light that'll just, you know, scoot right along. And the more people I talk to, especially, you know, the purist kayak fishermen, or just kayakers in general, they kept saying, no, don't do that. That's against the rules. Don't do that. You know, people don't like that. You can't go into tournaments and all that kind of stuff. Which honestly, I never planned to enter a tournament with this kayak. I fished bass tournaments with my dad in a bass boat and some friends of mine. All my friends have bass boats that fish except me. But for me, it allows me to go fishing, and it allows me to not hurt my arm when I paddle. So I found on eBay, I found the hang kai, or hang kai, I guess I call it a hang kai, I don't know. 7 horse. Actually, I got a 3.5 horse first, little bitty. Threw it on there, looked stupid. It still looks stupid, but at least it didn't look beefy stupid. So I put that on there a little bit. I was going about 7-8 miles an hour. It was cool. I was using the system that some guys had put in with the, you know, putting a cable to the foot pedals. I had used all kinds of different ways. And at one point, and I wish I had a camera for this one because this would be amazing. At one point, I had that motor, it's actually the 7 horse I have on there now, and I was using my feet to paddle, or to steer, and a cable broke when I was full bore to the left. And then my kill switch came disengaged, and I was unable to shut it down. So I'm sitting there in the middle of the lake, just basically, you know, angled over like this and just going in a circle for about 15 minutes. And I guess people that were there, because there's a little swimming area there, I guess the people there just thought I was playing around. I wasn't playing around. I was stuck and in dire need of help, but I never flipped over, and eventually it stopped. And I always carry a paddle with me because I think technically you're supposed to carry a paddle with a registered boat anyway. So no matter how many engines and motors I got, I always carry a paddle. I was able to paddle myself back. I wasn't that far from the ramp. And I realized that the cable snapped because it rusted. Fairly obvious thing. And so there you go. So I started to think of a better way. I could see at this point, I was like, now I just want to prove people wrong. Now I just want to make people think, you know, I don't care what you tell me, okay? I don't care what you think. I'm putting my time and my money into this. If you think it's cool, great. If you don't think it's cool, I don't care. You're not with me. It's just me, for me, you know? But the more people that said you shouldn't do that, you better not do that, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go do it. All right, I'm a child, all right? So, so here we are. I've got a 7-horse motor. I upgraded it. 7-horse motor, 196 cc, it's 4 strokes, air-cooled. So it's basically a lawnmower with a prop. Mounted on the back, I have a buddy of mine weld the bracket that you see, and also the bracket that holds the trolling motor. He helped weld that too. And I painted it all up and everything, and I thought, all right, what's a way? Boy, trying to make a video, you can hear ground. What's a way I can turn these using some kind of a linear actuator or servo and just hook it up to a battery, because I have a trolling motor, so I already got a 12-volt deep cycle. So I found a linear actuator that worked perfect with a 12-volt battery, hook it to a switch, or well, what I have the joystick, and hook it up and actually turn the motor and use them for trim. And then I tried to figure out a way to attach a spring to the gear shift to where when I pull it forward and lock it in place, it would go into forward, for example. And when I pull it out, the spring would push it back. And it kind of worked, but it really didn't. So I thought, all right, I'll just get another servo for that. So I did. And that's all hooked up to, I got the trim switch, and then I got the 4-way that does the steering, and my forward and back is forward, neutral, and reverse. And at this point, it's starting to turn into like the moon rover or something, or like the Mars space rover or something like that, something NASA would create. And I thought it was awesome. I thought it was really cool. Run into some people on the lake that were paddling kayaks, and they weren't amused by it. Some people were intrigued by it, but they weren't amused by it. I found out really quick the hard way that a lot of people that paddle kayaks, they don't like the motor situation. And I understand, because there's a certain level of, for lack of better terms, I guess badassness. When you're paddling a kayak and you got to try to handle this kayak, and most of these bass fishing kayaks anyway, you can stand up. Some of them you can't. The Jackson Big Rig, though, is one of the biggest out there, and you can pretty much stand on the side of it. I mean, it's perfect for a big guy, or for just someone who wants to stand up and not wobble a whole lot and worry about tipping over, or for some idiot who wants to put motors on it too. There you go. So I was able to do that because of how big it was. But these people that are paddling against the wind or against current on a river or against waves or anything like that, I mean, they're pretty awesome in my book. I don't take anything away from them. And that's what I was doing until I realized how much it was hurting my arm. Which sucks, because I like to play sports and do things. I'm very active, and I have to deal with it. You know, I play baseball with my son and stuff, and throw him a football, and eventually it will start to hurt. And with paddling, man, I mean, that's just constant, and you know, it's just not good. It was really bad on my arm. So that said, here we are now with the MotorYak, okay? And that's kind of a lame name. I think it's kind of a lame name, but it is what it is. It's a motor kayak, MotorYak. And I would take it to the gas station, throw some gas in it, or just pick some snacks up for the day. And I would have people come up to me and say, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen, man. That's so cool, that's awesome. I can't go to a ramp, I can't go anywhere without someone coming up and saying, that's cool, how'd you do it, where'd you buy it, all these kind of stuff. The most frequent question I get is, how big's the motor? You know, and all this stuff is fine, I don't mind. I'm friendly, you can come up to me and talk to me, it's not a big deal. But one guy said not too long ago, you need to have your own YouTube channel. I know a lot of people who would love to watch you fish out of this thing and work on it if you had your own channel. And I said, well, you know, I've made music before. My buddy has a recording studio, and I really like making videos and stuff. I'm a creator, I'm creative, I like to do that kind of stuff. So I thought, why not? It's perfect. And I already had GoPros and stuff. I bought a couple extra ones and a few little things, and you know, kind of got lucky. My buddy gave me a whole bunch of little accessories and clips and things, and I had everything I needed. So before crazy stuff was happening, the boat was getting all out of whack and going in circles. At one point I cranked it up in gear and it took off because I wasn't in it, and went across the lake. I got lucky, it didn't tear nothing up, it just kind of marooned itself on a grassy part of the bank. Got real lucky. And I was catching a lot of fish. Man, I was tearing them up. 7-pounders, you know, 5-pounders. At one point I went and I caught like 100 in one spot on the Arkansas River. And there were stripers, whites, Kentuckies, largemouth, everything you could think of. Just pulling them in, and I'm like, this would make great video footage. And all that put together, I decided, why don't I just give it a shot, you know? And then people started to like it, and now here we are. So I just wanted to make this video to kind of clarify where I went from bank fishing off a pond to having a very small kayak that was one of the little cheap Pelicans, you know, the 2-piece like that from Academy, to the big rig, and then putting all the accessories on there. And then of course all the buttons and switches and gauges and crap was just for fun. That came afterwards. So now the last thing I want to talk about is, a lot of people say, at this point, why didn't you just buy a boat? Fair question. I tried. I looked at everything from $30,000 nitros all the way down to like Express, Tracker, things like that. And the biggest thing for me, I could have got a John boat and put an even bigger motor on it, gone a little faster. But why? I don't like John boats. Because I've got very expensive rod and reels, and I want to be able to store them. That Jackson Big Rig, believe it or not, allows me to do that. Most kayaks don't have an internal storage big enough to put a 7-foot rod in. That one does. So now they're protected. I don't have to put them in my truck to transport them if I'm taking that. You know, with those rod socks, you can see them behind me, with these things, which are fairly inexpensive, they slide right in and out. They don't get tangled up, and it's perfect. And a John boat don't allow you to do that. And some people say, well, you could just make modifications. Well, yeah, that's what I did to that. So what's the difference, you know? But the cost of that rig, even with the trailer, which by the way is a custom-made Ironton 4x8, even with the trailer, all the accessories, all the motors, all the junk on it, it's still cheaper than having a flat bottom with a deck that has everything on it. Trust me, I promise you. And I don't make a lot of money. I'm not rich, I'm not poor, kind of in the middle like most other people. And I mean, it's just something that I've saved up, put some money for, because that's what I wanted to do. Still cheaper than a bass boat, way cheaper than a bass boat. And the maintenance and upkeep isn't near as bad because, you know, obviously. So anyway, that's pretty much all I got. I just wanted to make a little video and to kind of fill people in on where it came from, how it got started, and why I'm here talking to you, why I make these videos and why I do what I do. Nothing else. It's fun. It's become a hobby. It's a challenge, and I'll continue to do it until I can't anymore. At this point, pretty much everyone in the world in 2019, particularly people under the age of 30, and I'm 31 by the way, pretty much everybody under the age of 30 has a YouTube channel, okay? It just seems to be the thing to do now. So that's not why I do it, but it's kind of hard to compete with the world. But anyway, and I do hope you enjoy the stuff I do, the adventures I go on. It's not always a MotorYak. Sometimes it's I go to ponds, and sometimes I'm with my dad in his bass boat. My buddy's got a bass boat. Sometimes, I mean, and there's a lot more to come too. So I don't just fish out of that kayak all the time. I change it up. I do different things. But if you like what you see, feel free to like and subscribe and all that stuff that YouTube people say at the end of their videos. whatever. But you know what to do. Anyway, I appreciate it. We'll see you later.